I've been building web applications for 25 years. I've used a lot of different tools and techniques over that time, and the language that I use to build applications is Rust. I've documented the way I build applications here. In this video, I'll take you through my process all the way from IDE setup, databases, web pages, components, CI/CD, and all the way to production. I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. I always use VS Code dev containers for any project that I start. This helps me put all my tools into one place and into source code control. And then any person who comes onto the project can quickly get up to speed. So let's set that up. Create a project folder. And we've got a pre-configured dev container that has all the tools that I use. And now we should be able to open that up in Visual Studio Code. And you see it's popped up with reopening container. You have to make sure that you've got the VS Code dev container tools installed, and that's all in the documents there. So if I open up, okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, Rust is installed. And we've got Postgres installed. Let's continue on with the rest of the documentation. So I'm going to init a Git repo. And now I want to add a workspace. So I'm going to create a cargo.toml file. And we're going to put our crates into a crates folder. And now let's go and create our first crate, which will be our web server. Okay. Okay, hello world, that's working fine. So the next thing we want to do is to start to set up our database. So we're using a tool called dbmate to do database schema migrations. Let's give that a go with a new table. Okay, and that's created this file for us. And we're going to set up a very simple users table. And that looks like this. Now we can run the migrations. So we run dbmate up. That applies that migration. We can go into Postgres. And we can see our new users table, along with a schema migrations table that dbmate will manage for us. /q to get out. And we can run a little query. 3 rows return because we actually added some users into our table as well. And we should have folder structure like this, and that's effectively what we do have. Okay, now let's look at database access. So I'm going to put the database code for our application into its own crate. And we already created that folder, but now we've got a little Rust library there. We need to add some more crates, some external crates. Okay. Now what we're going to do is going to create this file here under db queries. So I'll go new folder, queries. And this is the way we're going to access the database, because we're going to use a tool called cornucopia. And what that will do, it takes these SQL definition files and looks at the SQL, sends it to Postgres to check the SQL's valid. And if it is, it then generates Rust code that allows us to, basically gives us a function that allows us to access the database. And I think that's really neat, because we kind of write, instead of using an ORM to access the database, we can just write the code using normal SQL, and then boilerplate code that we would normally have to write just gets generated for us. Okay, to get that to work, we need to create a build.rs file. And a build.rs file is a Rust file, a Rust program that will basically get run before it compiles the rest of our code. And this is how we access cornucopias. So we actually run it on the command line. That's going to generate the code for us, and that code will be then part of our library. for all the libraries that we need to do database. Okay, that's in. And we should have a folder structure like that, which we do with our user SQL file and our build. Okay, let's see if that actually builds. Cool. Just one final thing to do, which is just give us some more boilerplate code.